So let me start with this part. Good evening, my name is Timothy Lamprey. I'm the tree warden for the town of Newbury, and we're here for a public hearing by the tree warden. Residents of the town of Newbury and other interested persons, please note that on Thursday, March 14th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the second floor hearing room at 12 Kent Way, Byfield, Mass., the Newbury tree warden will hold a public hearing in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 87, Section 3, on the trimming or removal of the following shade trees, all of which have this posting attached hereon. Spruce tree at 28 Cottage Road, removal. An undetermined species at 120 Elm Street, removal. An oak at 115 Central Street, removal. A maple at 117 Central Street, removal. 3 oaks at 17 Main Street, removal. In Veterans Park on Main Street, which is that field that's adjacent to behind like the post office. 2 oak trees, removal. 1 ash tree, removal. On Larkin Road, opposite pole number 7, a cherry tree, removal, and 2 oak trees for pruning. Published on 3/4/2019 and 3/11/2019 in the Newburyport Daily News. So what I'm going to do is, if I can find where I put it, the 1 tree at 117 Central Street, the person who was the direct abutter of that, his name is Mr. Thompson, and he had called me and asked about why the tree was being marked for removal. He said, it looks like it just needs pruning. I said, well, if you look down near the bottom, which you can't now because the snow's piled so high on it, there is a big hollow spot in the base of the tree, which is rot going into the tree. So I said, we will schedule it for the hearing because it's been advertised that way, and then we'll take a second look at that tree once the snow melts and make a determination whether it does need to come down or whether it just needs to be pruned. So what we ask is, if you'd like to speak on any of these trees, that you step up closer to the table so that the camera can pick you up. Just ask for your name and what street you live on, and that's fine. So, questions?
The town's gonna remove the tree that's...
Step up so that they can...
Frank Stevenson, 115 Central Street, Byfield.
Yep.
The tree, the town will remove the tree?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How it works is with the municipal trees, usually what happens is I get a phone call from someone and says, oh, we've got a tree that's in sad shape. So I'll go out and take a look. Some of them, unfortunately, are on people's property. They'd like the town to take them down. And then others are in an area where you look and you say, yeah, that tree should come down. And then usually while I'm in a particular area, I'll look around to see if there's other trees close by, because it's the economics of not having to move the bucket truck too far. Up until this point, the town of Newbury did not have a bucket truck, and it was an appropriation at the last town meeting. The truck took a while to come together, but we now have a bucket truck, so the town can do much more quickly emergency repairs, taking down damages, and taking the trees down. When the town did not have a bucket truck, there is a law called prevailing wage in Massachusetts. And so when you have trees that would need to come down, you would need to get 3 bids based on prevailing wage in Massachusetts. And prevailing wage in Massachusetts for tree removal essentially is what union scale is in Boston. So the guy who stands there behind the chipper and throws the branches in, $75 an hour. The person in the bucket truck with the bucket truck is $250 an hour. So removing trees is fairly expensive. You can look at $2,000 to $4,000 for taking a tree down, depending on the size of it. So with a $50,000 budget, you do the math, it doesn't go a long way towards taking trees down. But with the town now having the highway department, having the bucket truck, they will be taking some of these trees down. If there's any that are more difficult, then we'll have to go out to bid on them. But the town will do that, take it down, and what we're trying to do with the purchase of the bucket truck is, it's been a long time with trees in town that have had issues. There wasn't a budget for taking them down that was enough to take a lot of trees down. I believe initially the tree budget was $10,000. And like I said, you know, if you figure trees, yeah, even $2,000, that's 5 trees. Now with the increase in the budget and with the new bucket truck, we're going to be able to do a lot more trees in town. What the whole idea is with the bucket truck is we can look at different streets in town and start at this end of the street, look all the way down this end of the street, mark trees that need to come down. Usually that's either a red or an orange X on the tree. Some might have a blue spray painted dot on them, which are pruned, and figure out, you know, how many trees we can do over the course of the year with the highway department, you know, doing their truck, using the tree truck, I should say, and then start to just go through and clean up what needs to be cleaned up. I mean, you can pick any street in town and go down, and one of the things that I've always said is Newbury's blessed with having a lot of old trees, and Newbury is cursed with having a lot of old trees, because there's a lot of them that, you know, down on Cottage Road, there was, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, windstorm came up, and a couple of them came down, one on top of the other, but it was right near the power lines, and then that creates a whole set of hazards, because the wires down there are not the coated wires, they're just open wires, and anybody with a bucket truck is not going to go near that. So then you have to get National Grid to come out and do the work to, you know, cut it back enough so that then whatever else can be cut back, because it's a pretty easy way to get electrocuted if you're not careful. So that's the plan on doing that. So at some point in time you would see on Central Street where there would be a legal notice like this that would say, okay, we're going to do this on the following streets, and this is what we're going to do. And, you know, it might take some time to do it, but we'll start at, you know, opposite ends of the town and, you know, kind of work in, or start in the center and work out. We haven't quite figured that part out yet, but that's what the aim is to get back to doing a lot of this preventative type of work, so that trees don't come down and, you know, cause a lot of problems for people. So, like I said, that's kind of sort of what we're trying to do on that. So,
one of the other questions that I have is that right on our property behind the tree from the street, we have a number of sort of valuable specimens, a red maple and rhododendron. So is all that sort of cared for in a way?
Well, they do their best to make sure that when they're dropping stuff, it's not being dropped onto, you know, call it specimen plans.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, the inherent nature of it is that it is a hazardous way of having to do things, and so something, you know, might happen. But for the most part, with the tree services that we've used in the past to do big trees, I mean, down on Main Street we had one that was at least 120 feet tall. It was an old oak, and it just, that summer of 2015 that was so dry, the summer of 2016, the roots just dried out, and left and right these things were dead. It was that house, I looked across the street, there was another dead one, and up the street, not 150 feet, there was another dead one. So we had 3 right in a row that had to come down.
We had the gypsy moth, that's what did ours in.
Yeah, I think what you'll find is that might have been a contributing factor, but that 2 years of drought took a lot of the older trees and really did a job on them, because all you've really got to do is drive up and down any of the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, the last go-around, we had a bunch of them on Orchard Street. And it didn't even clean up all of the ones that probably should be either pruned or taken down, because you have to live within a budget on doing it. With, you know, the tree truck that we have now, it can go a lot further, and, you know, the dollars in getting more trees pruned and taken care of than it would be in the past. You know,
We
so-
have another tree about 4 feet away,
Yeah.
right there, that's all rotted at the bottom.
Yeah,
So when we had called, we thought you were gonna take down the town.
well, it was, which one was the worst of the two, basically?
Well,
Yeah,
they're,
well, no, the other one's not dead yet, but.
Yeah,
it's-
one's
it's
dead and
rotted.
one's just rotted out.
One's completely dead, it's breaking off at the top.
Yeah, that was the one that I
Yeah.
spotted and
Yeah.
said, that's
right,
a hazard to everything. The
Yes.
other one, okay, we'll have another go-around of
Right.
trees,
Mhm.
but at the time, I wasn't sure whether we were gonna be able to get the bucket truck in time to do any of this work, or whether we were gonna have to go out to bid. And if we go out to bid, it's like, okay, it's kind of an open plan. How much is it gonna cost to take these trees down?
Right,
And, you know, the budget has to go until July. There has to be room in there for
mhm,
emergencies. We had one on Marsh Street, which is down beyond the Parker River on 1A. And this thing had just snapped, and it was leaning on
yeah.
another,
yeah. No, this
another
is-
tree.
This is more the big, the upper branches are starting to break off.
Yeah, and that's what would happen, you
Yeah.
know, with food and water, it doesn't go up as far as it used to, so, but the emergency one that had to come down, it was not a huge tree, but it was $2,000
wow.
to take the tree down, you know, I looked at it, I got a call from the highway department and looked at it and said, I'm gonna park my car a little further down the street. And I called the tree guy that we've been using, and he came out and looked at it, and he said, I got there, and he said, I thought, I'm gonna move my truck a little further down the street. So they were there the next morning.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
taking the
No,
tree.
I appreciate that.
So that's the type of thing that you have to kind of leave in the
Prioritize,
budget.
Yeah,
It'll be easier now with the bucket truck that the town owns, because then, in a situation like that, they can go out as soon as they know about it and take that tree down. And that's just gonna save a lot of time and a lot of additional expense of taking things down, but,
so they'll take appropriate care with the specimen plans.
oh yeah, I will tell them specifically about that,
Mhm.
so that they know, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Mhm.
Will we know when they come? Are we gonna be?
I mean, I don't know that there'll be any
Probably
real
not.
notification,
Yeah, well, we'll
because
pay attention.
in some cases, if it has to go out to the tree
Yeah.
services to do it, they're usually pretty good about letting me know, okay, on Wednesday, we're gonna be on, you know, Central Street, and we're gonna take that, you know, big
Oh,
tree
okay,
down, and then I
yeah,
can
yeah.
give you guys a call.
Okay,
And
Okay.
just, you
That'd be
know,
great.
after the meeting, if you just give me your phone number, then I can,
okay.
you know, give you a call and let you know. We had one, it was on Main Street, it was 2 big oak trees, and there was a little girl who saw the signs, and she said, are they gonna take down the trees? And the problem was, these trees, every time the wind picked up, there were branches falling off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's what's
hard.
starting to happen.
And so the father wanted to know if he could get a day's notice so he could explain to his daughter why the trees had to come
Yeah.
down, so.
Well, we're not that needy.
Yeah, but, no, but I mean, that's the type of thing that you try and do, so
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, the little girl doesn't go to school seeing 2 60-inch diameter oak trees and then coming back
they're
home and
gone,
they're
right.
both gone, and those were her trees, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah.
Yeah,
But, you know, so
Okay.
we can do things like that.
thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Did you folks have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, step on up.
I'll let you speak for
Bruce Webster, 26 Cottage
Yeah,
Road. I don't know if you recall what proximity the driveway is
yeah,
to the tree.
to the tree in the mailbox. As I remember right, this, the,
Not 28 Cottage Road, 26 Cottage Road.
yeah,
The driveway is on the other side of the 28 Cottage Road.
yeah,
Then there's the mailbox, then there's the tree,
yeah,
then there's our driveway,
yeah,
and then there's our mailbox.
okay,
Okay, but there's a power line that runs diagonal,
yeah,
and it's approximately 15 feet
Mm-hmm,
in the trunk of the tree,
yep.
who is going to be removing it?
The one that's posted here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's gonna be one that the town's gonna do, or whether we have to get the tree service to come and look at it.
Because
If-
it's two.
Yeah, if it's an issue with the power lines and the proximity to it, and let's say the guys from the town say, that's one we're not comfortable with doing, the tree service says, I'm not comfortable with doing that one, there are contacts that I've finally been able to get in National Grid. And they will come out, look at the tree and say, yeah, this has gotta come down because it's, you know, a danger to the power lines. They
Mhm.
have done in the past in town what they call hazardous tree mitigation.
Mhm.
And they started down on Highfield, and there's a big power station there.
Yep.
And that supplies power to that section, Middle Road, across Route 1 to Hanover, Hanover to Green, Green to Rolfs Lane. Eventually, it takes power out to Plum Island, essentially is what it does. And so they did
Yeah.
along there, took trees down, and there was some concern by the people on Rolfs Lane about some of the trees coming down. And fortunately or unfortunately, for the sake of argument, before National Grid got in there and got some of the trees down, one of the branches broke on one tree, and it contacted the wire, and it sent a charge into the house, and basically it fried every appliance, electric appliance in the lady's house. So they had to come and take that one down and, you know, straighten it all out. But that's what that program is designed to do. And then they have other, like this summer, spring and summer, they went through, National Grid hired a company called Asplund, who went through each place in town, each street, looked at trees and said, okay, these branches can fall on the primaries, the ones at the very top of the tree. That's their main concern. The hard part is finding who it is who will come in. Let's say you have, I think they call it a drop. It's the line that comes from the pole, maybe through the trees into your house, you know, who,
It comes to another pole and then to our house.
yeah. And then that way, who is gonna take that wire? And we've had some luck, I wish I could remember the name of the street, but I can't. There was two trees that, how they missed them, I have no idea, but these two trees were leaning, here's the pole right here, the primaries are here, and these branches were leaning like this, and the tree was literally at that kind of an angle. And so it took a while to find who the person was in National Grid, who was what they call the forester. He came out and looked at them and said, yeah, those have got to go. And within a couple of days, they had cut those trees down to prevent it from taking out, you know, the wires. So you say you're at 28?
No, we're
26.
You're
26.
at 26 in the
We're
tree?
26.
Okay.
I believe then, 28 is the one that
Yeah,
contacted you?
yeah. So,
He didn't say, so I didn't know.
yeah. Yeah, he called about the tree. What I can do is I can take a look at that one. That
It's a
is,
single trunk with two mains.
yeah, and take a look at that one, and if it is an issue with the power lines, then I can contact National Grid, because they have the highly trained people who will go in there and prune that out so that it's not an issue. I mean, they,
Secondarily,
yeah,
when you take that, when you start that operation,
yeah,
you're gonna be blocking our driveway,
yeah. And,
definitely.
yeah, that's
You have
the
to be
issue.
notified so I can get to work.
Like on, that's vastly overrated.
Well, hang on one second, okay? The little storm drain that sits out in front of the
Mailbox.
mailbox
Yeah,
got started at 6 AM with a jackhammer. A full-blown jackhammer at 6 AM.
Hmm.
I heard it
Was-
250 feet away.
was that the town doing that?
The town was
Okay.
doing it.
Yeah,
And that
And
was
then
prior
we block
to,
off the street, so when I was coming home to go home,
right,
that's that's part of the issue with roads like Cottage Road.
It is, it is.
When you get a bucket truck in there, no matter what size it is.
That's right, that's why we want to know.
When National
So let us
Grid
know.
did that,
Yeah,
they had huge problems with streets being blocked. They were doing some on Larkin Road, and of course, Larkin Road, there's a lot of families there with young kids, and so, you know, they're trying to get up to the bus stop, and, you know, the tree
That's right.
services wanna start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, if it's middle school kids, guess what time the bus arrives? So we have to kinda let everybody know so
that's
that
Carriage Road
they
too.
could get the kids up there and, you know, get the kids on the buses before the tree work started.
Now, next to that tree,
Yeah,
if you're looking at it, at the houses from the street,
yeah,
there was a tree right to the right of it
yeah,
that contained the property line post.
yeah,
And that was removed by the contractor that built the house,
okay,
the new house. 2 owners prior to the one they called you.
okay,
And, so if there's anything in that area, in that vicinity of the
Any
base of
pipes
the
or
trunk,
anything.
yeah,
we need to know that.
yeah. Well,
Because they pulled out a 4-foot post and didn't put it back.
you'd be surprised how often that happens, you know, where
Mhm.
the concrete, the granite markers now, you'll see them, and new houses go up, the granite markers go in, you know, when it's surveyed to put the house in. And then, so there's the granite marker, it's, you know, like that far off the ground, well, somebody puts in a lawn. Guess what gets buried, is the granite marker, so you have to kind of find where they are so that you can, you know, line everything up and
Mhm.
determine whether the tree is a town tree or belongs to the homeowner. So, that's the best way of doing it, is if we can find it, then we can work around it. And I just have to let whichever, at this point in time, whether it's the town or whether it's the tree service, but I assume that it's gonna be the town and possibly National Grid who are gonna be, you know, looking at the tree if wires run through it. Like I
Okay.
said, especially down on Cottage where
Yeah,
the
Cottage
wires
Road.
are, if you look at the top of the poles, there's, I think, 2 wires
Mm-hmm,
on Cottage, and those are the ones that carry the high voltage that, you know, gets you your electricity.
Yes.
And because those are uncoated, usually it winds up being National Grid who sends out a specialized group of people who know how to work around those uncoated wires. And from what they're explaining to me, they're working on getting all those primary lines back to a, you know, a covered wire so that it's not as dangerous to work around them.
Mhm.
When that happens, I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm gonna assume it's not tomorrow.
Uh,
So,
it's not gonna be tomorrow.
what I will do is when we get to the end of the meeting, then I can shut that camera off so that, you know, you giving me phone numbers doesn't go out across to everybody in the town of Newbury with your phone number who could call you. So, any other questions from anybody?
At what point do you cut the tree down to? The level of the ground?
Usually they get it as close to a low stump as they possibly can.
Okay.
The-
No stump removal.
The hard part there is, a lot of times, there are underground utilities there, whether it's water lines, gas lines, and so they don't wanna go in that day and start digging. You'd have to have, why can't I?
Dig safe.
Dig Safe come in, and you have to mark all of those things and find where they are. And that's just an additional expense. I'm not sure if the town has a stump grinder or not. I'll have to talk with James from the highway department and find out, and if
I was just inquiring.
that's the case, yeah. In most cases, where I've seen the trees, the real big trees where the trunks are so big, they usually take them down to about like that. If they're other trees, they can go a little bit smaller because it's easier to get a chainsaw in there to do it.
Mhm.
So that's what they're trying to do anyway, is get them as low to the ground as they possibly
And
can.
they remove, and they take the wood, I'm assuming.
I mean, in some cases, we've had people ask about wood. I know when National Grid went through and did the pruning all through town, there was some wood left for people. People went out and very specifically asked for that wood, and that's fine. I mean, if you've got, you know, wood stove and you want the stuff, but the whole key that comes with that is that when that tree is cut down, the wood can't be left out close to the road, because you can imagine what it must be like at 2:30 in the morning when you're coming down that road with a big wing plow on it, and there's a, you know, a 40-inch tree stump sticking out partway into the road. That creates bad language all the way around. So, in the instances where we've had that done, you know, it has to be cut and essentially left in your driveway, so you'd be responsible for dragging up the big parts of the tree to, you know, cut it up, and they're not gonna cut it up into 16-inch lengths for you, you know.
Right.
They'll cut it into maybe 4-foot lengths, maybe 6-foot lengths, whatever they would be able to. In the past, the tree services just, some of them had these monster chippers that I watched them bring a maple tree up over somebody's house and then cut it into sections, and then it just, the crane just brings it even with the chipper, and they fire that thing up, and the entire tree goes in there and is cut up into small pieces, so that they're not lugging logs around to different locations. But if people ask, then generally they can do that. Like I said, it would depend on which tree service it is that's doing it, whether it's the town doing it as the tree department with the town bucket truck, or whether it's whoever is the bidder for doing the removal, if it's something that the crew for the town doesn't feel comfortable doing. So, but we can figure that out. Like I said, you can just give me your name and phone numbers afterwards, and then, you know, we can do that. So, are there any other questions? Okay. That being said, then we'll close the public hearing at 7:35.